In this video, we're going to be talking about measures of center, including mean, median, and mode. So, on this first slide, we actually see that there's four measures of center that we're going to be talking about. In addition to mean, median, and mode, we're also going to be talking about what is called the mid-range. And below here we have a summary of what each of those are. So mean, a lot of times you will see it called the average, although any of those measures of center can be called an average. But usually when we think of average, we typically think of the mean. And to find the mean, that is the sum of all numbers in the data set divided by the number of numbers. Now, for mean, there are two different notations, here and here. Notice we have a sample mean and a population mean. The sample mean is when we find the mean of a sample, and we use this notation here. We call it X bar. That's what we call it when we see that symbol, and it stands for the sample mean. Now look at the formula for X bar. It has this notation here, which is the notation for sigma. Sigma is a Greek letter. It's an uppercase Greek letter. It stands for sum. So what I want you to do in this particular formula is to add up all the numbers. So see how it says sum of x? So that means add up all of the numbers in the data set. And once you do that, you want to divide by the number of numbers. So this may sound familiar, may sound like something that you have done in the past. Most people have at some point found the mean. So I'm pretty confident that this will be a review. Now that you might see that there's a second mean. This is the mean for a population. We call it a population mean. And this symbol right here, this symbol is mu. Mu. So it's pronounced M. It's pronounced mu. And it is the symbol for finding the mean of a population. And actually you find the mean the exact same way. You add all of the data set together, and then you divide by n. Now notice this n is an uppercase, whereas the n for the sample mean was a lowercase. All that means is the lowercase n represents the sample size, and capital N represents population size. So you'll see that the actual process of finding either the sample mean or the population mean, while the notations are different, and they use the lowercase n in one and uppercase n in the other, the actual process is the same. Then we have median. Many people have heard of median before. That is the middle of the ordered data set. So it's the very center. So you want to make sure that you put the data in order first. Put it in order. And once you put it in order, you find the middle number. Now, this can help you find the median is in position n plus 1 over 2. So what that means is if you take the number of numbers, so let's say there's 19 numbers, add 1, that's 20. 20 divided by 2 is 10. So if there were 19 numbers, the median would be in the 10th position. But we're going to go further into that later. We'll actually do this by hand and set the whole thing up. Then we have the mode. Mode is the number that occurs most. You can have no mode, or you can have multiple modes. It happens to be the numbers that occur most, so the most frequent. So if there's a few numbers that tie for the most frequent, all of those numbers would be mode. If all the numbers only occur once, then there's no mode at all. Be sure not to put 0. Make sure you put no mode, actually writing out the words no mode. And last, we have mid-range. This might be the one that you're least familiar with. Mid-range is just basically the midway between the smallest and the largest value in the data set. And to find that, you add the smallest number and the largest number. It says x1 and xn, but that stands for the smallest number, the first number in the data set, and the last number in the data set. And once you add those together, you find the average divided by 2. And that's how you find the mid-range. So let's look at this example. During the semester, a student took 5 exams. The population of exam scores is 78, 83, 92, 68, and 85. Find the mean. So we're going to use mu because mu stands for the population mean, and this is a population of exam scores because this is all of the exam scores that the student took, so it's the entire collection of that student's exams. So it's not a sample, since it's the entire collection, it's a population, so we will use mu. So we're going to add all of the test scores together, 78 plus 83 plus 92 plus 68 plus 85, and we get 406, and then we divide that by the number of numbers. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 test scores, so divide by 5 and you get 81.2. Now, rounding, you might be wondering, how far should I round? So for mean, there's a special rule we have, and that's to round one more decimal place than the data that appear in the original data set. So what that means is if you have numbers like 25, 35, 45, 55, 57, and 133. Okay, if I were to add those numbers up and divide by the number of numbers, they would add up to be 350. And then we have 6 numbers. So when we divide that out, you get 58.3333 repeating. So the rule is to round to one more decimal place than the data that appear in the original data set. So each of these, the decimal comes at the end. So we don't have any decimal places after that. The number in each of those, in the first decimal place after the decimal is 0, which we don't have to write. So that means these are just whole numbers. There's no decimal place. So that means we're going to round to the first decimal place. So if we round to the first decimal place, that's 3. We look at the number in the second decimal place, which is also 3, and that tells the 3 to stay at 3. So we round to one decimal place. If you had all your numbers rounded, if all of your numbers in the data set went out to one decimal place, then you're going to round to 2 decimal places. If all of your data was 2 decimal places, you'd round to 3, so on and so forth. All right, on to median. The median is the number that splits the data in half. So half the values in the data set are more than the median, and half of the data values are less than the median. And when we calculate the median by hand, the way we approach it is going to change depending on whether we have an odd number of data values and an even number of data values. And if you think about it, if median is the middle number, if there's an odd number of numbers, there's an exact middle number. But if there's an even number of numbers, there's not a number exactly in the middle. So we have to change our approach depending on how many numbers there are. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you put your numbers in order. That's so important. Then if there's an odd number of numbers, the median's in the middle. And if there's an even number of numbers, find the average of the 2 middle numbers, because if there's an even number of numbers, there's no number in the middle, so there would be 2 numbers in the middle, and you'd have to average those 2 together. So let's look at an example. the original example, I believe, during the semester, a student took 5 exams. The exam scores are 75, 83, 91, 63, and 84. Find the median. So we're going to put them in order, which I did here, 63, 75, 83, 84, 91. So there's an odd number of numbers. Basically what I would do is I would mark off the ends, and then I would mark off the next two until I get to the center, which is 83. So 83 would be the median here. Okay, so let's look at one more example. Find the median of 20, 15, 12, 27, 13, 19, 13, and 21. So first we want to put the numbers in order. So there we go, 12, 13, 13, 15, 19, 20, 21, 27. So if I mark off the ends and keep working my way in until I get to the center, my center is 15 and 19. So since there's an even number of numbers, we find those two middle numbers and we're going to average them together. So we're going to average 15 plus 19 together. We get 34, and 34 divided by 2 is 17. And the great thing about median is you don't have to worry about rounding the median. Your median is just going to be your median. All right, now, finding the mean and the median doesn't seem that hard if we do it manually. However, if we had, let's say, 150 numbers in our data set, we're not going to want to type all those numbers in and try to add them, divide by the number of numbers, and we're definitely not going to want to put them in order. It just take too long. So we live in the 21st century where we have calculators and computers, so we're going to use a calculator here. You can also use an Excel spreadsheet to do this. We're going to work on the calculator here. So the TI-8384 calculator, to be specific. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to hit Stat, and you're going to choose Edit. And I'll show you this on the calculator in a moment. Then you're going to enter your data into one of your lists. I usually put mine in L1, but you're welcome to put it in any of the other 5 lists that you have listed in your calculator. Then you're going to, now that's how we put the data in the calculator. Now, to actually find the mean, you're going to hit Stat again, and this time you're going to arrow to the right to Calc, and you're going to choose number 1, var stats. After that, you can hit Enter, or if they give you prompts, make sure you tell the calculator which list you're using, and in our case I'm going to use L1. That should already be in there, that's the default, but if you have it in a different list you would change that. You're going to hit Enter. So here's the screen with var stats on it. Now once you find your mean, it will give you the mean as X bar, whether it's mu for population mean or X bar for sample mean. You're going to write down whatever the X bar is because it represents both. We'll have an SX and a lowercase sigma x right here. Those are standard deviations. Then you have a minimum, a quartile 1, median, quartile 3, and a max. And I'll talk about the other things that it's finding later, but specifically you want X bar and you want median. So let's go back to our initial example. Okay, we're going to go to Stat, and we're going to go to Enter. And if you have any data in here, we clear it by arrowing up and highlighting what we want to clear, the column, and hit Clear, and then down. I'll go ahead and do it on this one too. So now we're going to put our data into L1. So 78, Enter, 83, Enter, 92, Enter, 68, Enter, 85. Now, to find, once we have that in, to find the mean and the median, we go to Stat again. We arrow right to Calc. We're going to choose 1 var stats. So since it's already highlighted, I can just hit Enter. For list, make sure it says L1 unless you put it in some other place. Frequency list should be blank, so I'm going to delete that out of there. I'm going to go to Calculate, and here we go. 81.2 is what we found for the mean earlier. There it is right there. And if you scroll down, you will see the median is 83, which is also what we found. So we're going to pause here, and then we'll pick up with part 2 of this video in the next video.